has a purpose. We are really focused, and our attention to detail is going to be unmatched.
8th play of this opening drive. It's a keeper. Milroe follows the back. Milroe explodes to the secondary. Race for the end zone. Touchdown, Tide. What a start.
Back here on Tiger Rag Radio, Jeff Palermo, News and Sports Director of the Louisiana Radio Network, along with the Executive Editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Todd Horn, and the Editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Glenn Gilbo. Joining us now on the Max Home Hotline, it's former LSU Tiger Richard Dixon. He joins us on the show. Richard, thanks a lot for joining us here on a Tuesday night. How are things in the Dixon household?
We're doing a little bit better. I mean, the sting of the loss is starting to fade a little bit.
As a former player, when you're watching that, just what's going through your mind? And do you just is it like, is your stomach turning? I mean,
he's probably puking.
Turning over.
Well, I was trying to not get so graphic, Todd, but go ahead, Richard.
It gets worse. Like my thing is trying not to break things in my house. Like trying not to break.
That's a good start.
Trying not to put my elbow through a wall. I mean, look, I thought one day, like, I was a very furious player when things went wrong on the field and things went wrong at practice. I used to get very upset. And my dream one day was that I would not get this angry. And it's not working for me. I get just as angry as when I was playing as I do now watching the team.
Hi, I'm Mike Munderland, and we're here to smash the capital city's trash.
Smash My Trash is a revolutionary compactor for large dumpsters, sometimes reducing the volume of waste by up to 70%. This means fewer hauls per month and big savings for your business. Fewer hauls and compacted waste will also result in a positive impact on our community and our environment by taking up less space in our local landfill sites. Schedule your company's free demo today. Call 225-497-0101.
Well, what infuriated you the most watching Saturday night's game?
The biggest thing was just like I preached for 2 weeks that we were not going to get beat by the quarterback run. We saw Marcel Reese do it against A&M. I felt like our defense was getting better, and I still think it's getting better. It's just that guys are getting out of position, letting things happen that, I feel bad for Blake Baker because I went back and watched this film, and me and Charlie Hannegriff the Hannecast did a film review on it Monday night. But the play calls are right for the most of the time, but we have so many guys that are trying to cover up for the rest of the team that you end up with 2 to 4 guys and 1 or 2 gaps and leave half the field open. It's just guys trying to do too much.
So let's get a little specific there, Richard. They correct me if I'm wrong. You did the film study. Were they actually stunning too much on the defensive line and putting too much onus on the linebackers in some of those runs from Milroe?
I would agree with that. I go back in the 2 plays I really broke down where the first touchdown, I believe it was 30-something yards, and then the 74-yarder.
Yeah.
39 and the 74. On the 74-yarder, we ran a blitz into it, and look, you're going to call a blitz play. You don't know what they're running. It was a bad time blitz. They run the play into it. You got guys crashing in. You got the linebackers blitzing it, and the whole pop. The safeties didn't help any. Like that should have been a 20-yard run against a badly timed blitz into a good call. But the safeties took bad angles. Sage Ryan did a U-turn. Like he just didn't do a pursuit drill, didn't do it correctly, and left the field wide open. On the 39-yarder was, I mean, that was just Whit Weeks, which I love to death. He's my favorite player on the defense right now, but he's trying to do too much. He had his head peaked in the right gap. He bounced out, ended up in the same gap as Gilbert on the far side. The play should have been stopped. This one really frustrates me because you had Swinson was supposed to play the inside. He's on a 7 technique playing inside. You had 14, who's the contained player. Swinson bounces outside. So you got 2 guys on the outside gap. Then you have Gilbert and Weeks end up in the same gap, and the whole backside of the field is just wide open. It's guys trying to make too much of instead of just doing the responsibility.
So trying too hard, I heard a lot of people say LSU was flat. I did not see that.
No, they weren't flat. They're just in the wrong spots. They're in the wrong spots.
Well, it's a group of guys where you have 4 or 5 playmakers that are not trusting the other 4 or 5 guys. They're all trying to make up for the deficiencies on the defense, and you got guys trying to do too much. And look, we've been told your whole life, do your job, let somebody else get blamed. Like, if the play goes bad, at least you did your job. Well, these guys, like as an athlete, as a player, you want to make the play on every snap. So you might not feel like your other guy's going to get it done, and you try to do both jobs, which ends up hurting you even worse.
And then when you fall behind early like they did because you made mistakes, then you want to press even harder, and it sort of builds on itself and you make more mistakes.
Well, at that point, I mean, it's just like where I got really frustrated in this game is, look, we rushed for 24 yards against A&M. We had a 23-yard run on the first drive of the game, or second drive of the game. This game, Caden Durham got running early. We talked a lot about in the post game after A&M that you got to get out of this offset back zone read action because you're cutting off half side of the field. You're running the ball. It's very predictable where you're running. And I really pressed and said, y'all need to run more in the pistol. They get into the pistol formation. They break the first run for 45 yards. They break another one for 7. Things are getting moving, but they completely just went away from the run game. And look, I get it later in the game. Once the score started getting lopsided, they were trying to press and trying to catch up. But I think they really got away from the run game way too early because they had 55 yards, I believe, in the first 2 or 3 possessions.
Yeah, they were 5 for 55 in the first quarter, and they took Caden Durham out when they got in the red zone. People were talking about that was kind of strange because I mean, wouldn't you agree he's clearly the best back they have?
No, he's the best back by far, and I heard Brian Kelly talk about in the press conference that when they're bringing heavy blitz packages, they're starting to press a little bit more. They trust Josh Williams. Well, look,
that makes sense.
I think Josh Williams is a good player, but he's had his deficiencies in the pass protection as well. My thing is I think Joe Salone is a pretty good coordinator. He's done great things. He's great in recruiting, but the one glaring thing to me is it's the worst red zone offense in the country. I feel better about scoring a touchdown from the 50-yard line than I do from the 15.
Why you think that is? What are they not doing in the red zone? Maybe more passes to Mason Taylor? Jesus, I mean, that's all Drew Brees did in the red zone.
Yeah, I think, look, what's overlooked in a lot of things that people don't realize is the red zone is probably the hardest place to score. The field's condensed. The safeties are pressed up. Your options get less. But you've got to be able to rely on a run game, and you've got to be successful in the run game to open up the pass game in the red zone. You've got to make everybody step up. You got to make the linebackers crash. You got to make the safeties fill in their zones, and then you pass off that. Right now, it's like we don't even try to run the ball in the red zone.
Right.
Trains are everywhere. You should always expect one, even on private property. Only cross tracks at designated crossings that fit your equipment. If you don't fit, don't commit. Look, listen, live.
Well, Richard, let me ask you this. What do you think of Garrett Nussmeier in the beginning of the season? And then what do you think happened second half A&M and then this past game? What do you think's going on with him?
I feel like, I almost compare it to last year with Jaden Daniels, where he felt like he had to score on every possession. And because the defense couldn't get a stop, he felt like he had to make a play every time. So he was always pressured to do things. The only difference is he had the run game himself. He had a two-way option. He could throw it or run. Nussmeier is not going to run the ball. He doesn't have a desire to run the ball. He doesn't want to try to. And I just feel like that it's gotten to the point where he knows they're not going to call a run play. They don't have any confidence in the run game. They don't think they can be successful in the run game. So Nussmeier's trying to make a play every single time with his arm. And when you're asking the guy to, make every single play with his arm, he doesn't have the option to run like Daniels did. He's got to throw it every time. I just felt like he's pressing too much.
Right. Richard, if we go back, rewind to preseason, LSU was talking about, Will Campbell, Garrett Nussmeier, Brian Kelly. They were all talking about how they're going to be able to run the ball. They're going to run the ball. How could they be so wrong about
that? Now you're really pressing my anger points because this is the same thing I've said. the whole time. I mean, look, I feel like they got the confidence from the offensive line. They did, they came in saying we have 2 first-round tackles. We got 4 guys been here for 3 years. They felt really confident about it. But my thing is they were building off confidence of what Jaden Daniels did in the run game. And that's completely different from what they have this year. They don't have a quarterback that can break it for 70. I mean, Jaden Daniels was our leading rusher last year. They rushed the ball very well last year when you look at our statistics. But it was a different style of rushing game. It was a quarterback, a true zone read option. We're running zone read this year without a really running quarterback that's willing to pull it and take off.
But see, that's the thing. At the beginning, in fall camp, they were talking about how we're doing, pulling pins, and we're pulling the tackles, and we're doing things more complicated or more complex than your simple zone reads, because we know we don't have Jaden Daniels anymore. But yet they seem to have abandoned that after. I mean, I think I saw a couple of those in the USC game, and that was it.
Well, let's be honest. Who were they doing it against in the spring and the fall?
Right.
They were doing it against freshman D tackles. They were doing it against a young defensive line, guys that were not experienced, guys that were not dominant in what they were doing. So yeah, I'm sure when they're reaching against Bro, reaching against Guillory, Guillory's good, but he's not a very dynamic defensive tackle. He's a guy that doesn't get up the field very well. They practice against who they were practicing against, and maybe that made them feel more confident. But when you go against guys who have juniors and seniors and big time draft prospects, and the South Carolinas, the Ole Misses, the Alabamas, the defensive lines that are really more advanced than what we have right now, it's a different story.
It's time to start betting on yourself. Louisiana 988 can help if you're dealing with tough emotions caused by gambling habits. You can share as much or as little as you want, and it's completely confidential. It's free, available 24/7, and most people who reach out report feeling better right in the moment. Call or text 988 anytime.
Richard, how do you see this team responding or playing down the stretch here in these final 3 games?
Look, it's big. I mean, to me, this is where you save your season. And we talked about it the other day is, look, you start your season, goal number 1 is national championship. Goal number 2 is SEC championship. Goal number 3 is 10-win season. They're on their final goal. This is the last thing that they can reach of the year. And, you start playing to where your older guys, this is the way I've always preached it is, nobody's going to quit. People think people quit. No, the older guys have to put good film on to get drafted. So they want to play their best. The younger guys want to retain their spot. They got to put the best film on. So there's a different way to motivate these guys. You just got to readjust your goals.
Richard, thanks a lot for your time. Hopefully we didn't get the blood pressure boiling too much here tonight.
I'm going to take a blood pressure pill before I go to sleep.
Anger management, buddy. Anger management.
Richard, a member of the 2007 National Championship team. Always a pleasure to have you on the airways. Thank you very much for joining us here on Tiger Rag Radio.
No problem. You guys have a good night.
Get ready to make some noise this October with the East Baton Rouge Parish Library. Join us for the 11th Annual Baton Rouge Maker Fair on October 19th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., where creativity and music come together. From live performances to hands-on workshops, there's fun with a beat for everyone. Visit batonrouge.makerfair.com for details. Brought to you by your East Baton Rouge Parish Library, where creativity never stops.